Hi there, and welcome to Principal Shorts, the podcast for principals who have 7.5 minutes for lunch and no time to eat their lunch until after 2 p.m. I'm your host, Stan Baker, along with my colleagues Steve Young and Shelley Steele. I've got an artificial intelligence voice that will tell you what it is that we do.
Thanks for putting the words in my mouth, Stan. I'm Paula. Restorative Resolutions specializes in equipping principals and staff at elementary and secondary schools with effective restorative practices. Can you help? Yes, you can by giving Shelley, Steve, and Stan your thoughts on this podcast's relevance, practicality, and your suggestions to add to the conversation. It's a feedback loop that can shape future podcast topics.
I'd love to chat with you about possibly being a guest on our podcast, so click the podcast feedback link in the description below. So here's today's Principal's Problem of Practice. How do I find time to listen to all the teachers on my staff when there are so many and our school's a busy, busy place? Well, let's listen to what Steve has to say about this.
Ask the right questions, but then make sure you sit back and listen to what they're saying and don't feel the need to respond right away. And that's all part of the restorative practice work that we talk about in terms of asking the right questions and listening. The old adage, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, you should listen twice as much as you talk.
That's definitely good advice from Steve, to listen twice as much as you speak. And how do you find time for something like this? And I think part of what Steve's getting at is that we need to frame the conversations in a way that allows us to get at what's most important, but also not put someone on the defensive. There's nothing like eating up a bunch of your time with somebody who's feeling that you're coming after them or you're blaming them or something like that. So the very first thing that I'd suggest is to get rid of that question, why, at the outset, because the question why is like somebody taking a finger and pointing it right at you and saying, why do you have this problem? Why do you need to talk with me? And there's a lot of blame attached to this. Well, if you can kind of picture this almost like a porcupine with all the prickly bits sticking up, and what happens is when you ask the question why, what you get from the other person is all these prickly bits. There they are, all those prickly bits pointing up at you. And what you want to do is ask a more open-ended question, one that allows for space. Look at all the space inside there for the conversation. So lose the question why and ask a more restorative question. So what is that more restorative question? Well, I'd suggest something as simple as this. What's happening? Or what happened with fill in the blank? Do you hear how that's open and invitational? There's no judgment. There's no blame. I just need to understand what's happening.
It's Paula again. Stan wanted me to ask you this. So how relevant is this principal's problem of practice to you? Practical solutions? Click the link for the feedback loop in the podcast description, or you can click through our website, www.restorative.ca. Back to you, Stan.
So 2 things to try this afternoon or tomorrow. If you want to listen to teachers and make the time worthwhile, first of all, drop the why question. And secondly, ask a more open question. What's happening or what happened with? And be sure to take the full 7.5 minutes for your lunch, eh?